Got it. Yeah.
Okay. So,
Tell me, how can I help you?
yeah, firstly, I would like to introduce myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an
Please.
electroacoustic composer currently studying at Codarts. Recently, I received a research fund for my project called Symphony of the Earth. My
Mm-hmm.
artistic supervisor is Dr. Josue Amador,
Mm-hmm.
a teacher of the Joint Minor Russell. The research reunites circus art, music, science, sociology to face an issue that concerns all of us, the global environmental problems. The outcome will be presented through a multidisciplinary performance that will make use of biological materials and concepts in order to encourage people to think and act in a more sustainable way. So, the sub question of today is how can I inform my artistic practice based on sound works that make use of biosonification? So, welcome. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation for this exciting discussion. So, to kick it off, let's start with the first question. Why is biosonification important to you?
Oof, I think I don't know if Josue told you, but I am kind of I need to really think my answers, and sometimes I will give you a very long answer because actually that question brings me to the pandemic.
Mhm.
When everything started, and actually I was working at home, doing not so much. For sure, I knew a little bit of programming, and in some point when I start to live here in Germany and I have a little garden, I always try to plant tomatoes because it's really easy. They are really for the stational plant, like for the summer, and then you have this kind of fruits. So then I thought like, okay, why I cannot take this advantage of the pandemic to learn something new and to make my own little system of how to take care of my plants. And actually, there is a project there on internet called Garduino that is that you can connect Arduino and then you can monitor your plants and then you can create a little irrigation system, take care of the light, and you can put release. I mean, it's really to take care of plants. So I did it with the tomato, and it functions pretty well. And then I say, okay, this was my purpose. I learned, but really a little bit of programmation. And then I was kind of worried, like, well, okay, what if I expand this project and really to be interested in plants and then to grow this project, not only to take care, but actually to understand and to hear the plant. So then I start to learn about data sonification. I have not now in my mind some research I read about it, but there is a very important book, The Secret Life of the Trees, or the plants. I don't remember. Is The Secret Life of Plants or of the Trees? But it's a very, very important book in which they say how they communicate plants with other ones via chemical or by the roots. So then that really fascinates me. And then I understand that data sonification is just a little bit of approximation of that, but it's not really all. So because then I start to face different problems like which kind of program do I need to use, which kind of sensor do I need to use, which kind of how do you say this data I will get, and if this is really important for all the plants. Then I realized that not all the plants are the same, and actually every plant is like a human being. When someone says like put Mozart or Beethoven to your plant because they will grow faster, it's not true. Every plant actually vibrates in different way, or they give energy in different way. So then I was really more interested, and I was really thinking like, wow, this is for me so important because now I start to understand another part of a life that for sure they are not moving, they are not they are breathing for me actually, and they are actually giving me air. This is, I think, also something very important that I should mention, that we as humans, we understand that we have the uh, breathing system, but we think it's just here inside, that we have two lungs and we have our nose and our mouth, and then we are breathing. We don't need anymore. We have this system. But actually, we depend uh, the plants. We are depending from the plants. So then you start to have this correlation between plant, you, world, and this world starts to expand. And I say, wow, my amount of knowledge is really so small that I need really to research more. So answering your question, for me is very important, data sonification. First, for sure it was artistic purpose, and then it was artistic purpose plus to understand the life at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very fascinating to hear. Yeah, I also read a study about plants, and people say, oh, if you touch the plants, like people who are outside the scientific domain, yeah, they are more happy,
Yeah.
but actually, in a study, 7 out of 8 plants died because they were touched constantly for weeks every day for
Yeah.
20 times.
Yeah.
So there are stuff that we don't understand probably, but it's a fascinating domain to explore.
Exactly.
Yeah, moving to the second question, which is more punctual. You have a piece called Water Station. Would you like to introduce the concept of the piece briefly?
Yeah. It's also a little bit story. So um, this project of data sonification, I said, okay, how can I go not only with plants, but then I understand that also, for example, the plants, they need different pH, acid, and what is the other called? Uh, solid dissolved particles inside the
Mm-hmm.
water. That could be minerals, that could be other things, and how pure is the water actually. So then I apply for a residence in artistic residence in Norway, in Bergen. And it's for sure, Norway is a place with water and a lot of water. It's amazing. Um, so then my idea or my intention at first, it was just to get the data and then how to know how can they behave, or how they communicate something to me. And it was very nice because there in Norway, I could find a little team that they were working actually for the water system. They measure how pure is the water, how the water is changing between areas, and then I don't know if the water was the same today or yesterday because it was raining or not. So then all this data I start also to gather, and then we divide the team, like the scientific team and the artistic part of the team, but we are the same. And at the end, we make a little presentation there. And it was like to hear the water, the memory of the water, how is the water behaving, how the water of one cascade is sounding, how the water of the river sounds. And it's actually very interesting because, for example, the water near, for sure, of the how do you say it, the ports in which the ships are parking, the water is high contaminated. But as far
Mm.
as you start to go away, for sure, and then you found these waterfalls, very beautiful, the water is very, very pure. So, but if you go a little bit up, because the water is colder, the molecular structure of the water is not the same. And then you got different values from conductivity or for different kind of statements of the water. So it's also the same kind with the plants. The water is also talking, it's saying something that we cannot hear for sure. So again, the data sonification gave me this opportunity to hear it.
Yeah, great. So, what is the function of water and air in your piece, and how is the sound affected by this?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So I saw you in the video. You were actually blowing on the
Mhm.
circuit.
Yeah,
So what is the role
I
of
have here the
air?
circuit.
Yeah, this is the one. Yeah, function of air and water in the piece, and how is the sound affected by these two elements?
Oh, super. This is a very nice question. Because also reminds me one of really my first steps that I started to compose an opera, and the opera talks about elements actually, and the opera is called Akasha. Uh, and then I really this was actually after my first experiments with the plant. So then I was thinking how I can integrate water, how I can integrate wind and fire into this opera. Um, and I don't know if you know ocarinas, this wind instrument, but
Yeah.
in the native people who made these ocarinas in South America is actually symbolism of the four elements, because to make the main material, you need water, you need air, and then you need to put into fire. Then it's getting really, really hard. And after that, for sure, you can blow with the air. So the four elements are really inside this little instrument. So my idea was like simulate something like this with this water station, to have something with the wind and with the water, because actually this is also very important that I didn't know. When the water has some kind of purity, it has also some kind of ionization. I mean, I'm not really scientifically um, super prepared, so I will try not to contradict myself. So I will give you very basic information about it, not because of you, because actually of me. So this ionization actually makes reflection in the air, makes some kind of chemical response to the air. And this is actually very important to us to have pure air. So it's actually also very important to give water to their plants, and then they can give you very nice air. And it's again that we think that we just have two lungs and then we can do everything by ourselves. That's not true. We need these other things. So I try to make this electronic ocarina, let's say, and I wanted actually to put fire also, and to put earth, but it was not possible on that time. And because also they say no, this should be just water, and then this should be just wind in some point. So actually, I was thinking like either I can just put this. This is a sensor, actually, a sensor I did by myself.
Mhm.
I can just put it there and then to see what is happening. But I really want to interact, and I also want people that people can come and then interact with the sound. So when you start to blow, there are some kind of uh, humidity here, and this could be actually like a humidity sensor, and you get some data, and then these data are sonified. So this was my purpose, like to put these two things together, and at the end, I think it works pretty well, because for sure people didn't know how to react to this, but once they start to see it how it works, they were really like, oh look, for sure I needed to clean always.
Yeah, so this was for the air, but how about the water? Because it was flowing from the beginning of the piece.
Yeah, exactly.
Was that affecting the sound in any way, the water, and how?
Yeah, well, talking about the sound and the water, um, the project first was to I just went there without any clear idea what I wanted to do. My idea was to record actually the sound of the water. This is also very, very interesting, like to not only like outside, but I have here some hydrophones I did by myself, and I have some accelerometers. I don't know if you know what is an accelerometer.
Not really.
Well, it's a little instrument to measure the movement of the Earth.
Hmm.
But you can use these accelerometers with some special devices that also you need to do by yourself. to make it as a microphone. So then you really can hear inside the things or the vibration of the things. It's pretty nice. It's not a piezo but you need to attach to surfaces. But it's not the same as piezo. It's a coil, a metal coil inside. So I start to record all these sounds, but from inside of the river, of the waterfalls, of the little streams, and all these kind of water shapes. And they were really fascinating. And then also the people in Norway, they told me, please do, we should use these sounds because we always hear this, the raining or like the water outside, but never inside. For example, it's so interesting. When a ship is coming, you just hear like kind of white noise, and then suddenly it starts to be like something is growing, and it goes. No, it's really like a very magical, and also it's for sure and some intervention of the human. So then I put these sounds into the water, and then my idea was like, okay, so when you blow, you can hear some. I didn't want to make like one to one. So you blow wind, and then you hear wind, and then you don't blow wind, and then it's nothing. It's just water. So I used these data just to change the different sounds of water. So if it was really humid, I remember you could hear like waterfalls. And if it was not so humid, you return to the human part. So it was also a little bit contrary, like what is the human doing with this and how you can hear the human affects the sound of the water. Yeah.
Yeah, and there were 4 water tanks. Is this a reason for this?
Yes, because this team of that they were making measurements of the water, it was in 4 specific spaces. I cannot pronounce the names because it's in Norwegian. So, but it was 2 waterfalls and 2 ports of ships. So yeah, so it's very interesting how if you put in the waterfalls, the sound, the data is kind of it shows you the water is pretty clear, pretty pure, with little things, but you can drink it, no problem. But the water that it was near of the ships is really even with oil and you cannot drink and very dense actually. Even the weight of the water changed a lot.
So the water in the tanks was collected actually from different
Yeah,
places?
yeah.
Okay.
They were how do you say these excerpts of different of these specific places.
Yeah, okay. Um, I have another question here. Why did you choose this type of sound color in the first 2 minutes when you work with water? I said here, but now that I understand that you just don't work only with water, but with
Mhm.
everything. So maybe I rephrase that.
Mhm.
Why did you choose this type of sound in the first 2 minutes, let's say, the actual sound?
As far as I remember, it's just like a sound of like um, not clear, right? Like
Yeah.
something like this. Yeah. Okay. Mm, as this is a very nice question because, and I think that makes me think about 2 things. When you have this data sonification, um, what the first things I wanted to do, oh yes, I want to control granular things, I want to control super crazy things and sine waves and reverse, and you can do it for sure. Depends of the context of your work or what you want to show or whatever. So, and actually this sound, this uh, kind of deep sound or white noise is actually the ship I was talking about.
Mm.
So I try to use nowadays less electronics, let's say less synthesis
Yeah.
than before. So, and I think for that one, because we made like how many speakers there were there? 4 or 6, even I don't remember now. But I just put a little bit of reverb. That was all. But the sound is almost this. not surface. It was the inside the river of, and it was the inside of the that you can hear the ship going through. And I was just put that excerpt in which is there, and that's all.
Yeah, so I guess we can call this green art because the sound is very organic and barely touched with the reverb, as you said.
Yes.
Yeah. So at 208, you tap the circuit that you just showed, and
Mhm.
that results in a sound change.
Yes.
Why is that, or how is that happening?
It was actually to hear these four places of the water.
Mhm.
So when you tap, yes, also change, let's say the 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 the, the sound result. And what we want it was that you can hear uh, this particular place, but not only the outside. It was also I record in three ways, like the sound environment with my Zoom recorder. I record with my my hydrophone, and I record with this accelerometer. So this, when you blow, you change this status of water, and when you tap, you change this outside, inside, or deep. I would say. So it has two meanings. Like the blowing was changing something, and also the tapping was changing the status of the inside, outside, or deep part of
What do
the
you
water.
mean by inside, outside, or deep?
Yeah, for example, let me see if I have here. Wait a moment. Well, no, I can explain. Outside is this sound environment normal that you can
Uh,
record with your Zoom. Inside, I refer to inside the river with this hydrophone, and deep, I refer with this accelerometer microphone I have. Yeah.
and where did you use the accelerometer?
Then I need to show you. Then I have here.
Please do. Yeah,
Yeah, and I still can hear you because I have wireless thing. So,
great.
ah, so this is yeah. This doesn't look like a microphone actually. Looks like a just piece of metal, something.
Yeah, like a battery or something.
Yes. Um, but you can modify. And for example, it doesn't have this kind of uh, exit or plug. And then you just connect. I can send you some sound recordings of this without any, how do you say this? Uh, any electronic process. So then you
Mm.
connect, and then you need
Yeah.
to connect actually to an amplifier, but the amplifier needs also to be a little bit of special. And this you can attach, for example, it has what? You can attach to metal surfaces, to stones, for example. And for example, what I really took advantage in Norway it was that I have these metal pipes that they go really, really deep into the water. So then I attach the accelerometer. It has a magnet here, so you can do it like this, and you don't hear anything outside, like the birds or no. What you are really hearing is all the vibration this metal pipe is giving to the microphone, and the streams for sure when they touch this metal pipe, they start to create sound. And as I said, this instrument is to measure the movement of the earth, so they are really sensible.
Yeah.
Yep,
And you
sensitive.
made it yourself.
Yes. This one, no, this I bought it, and it's very funny because for sure, if now the what an accelerometer looks like to measure movements, and I think I have one here. Yes, you use these kind of ones.
Uh-huh. It
This
looks
is an
like a circuit. Yeah.
yeah, it's a circuit, and this is for sure a digital one. This is actually for Arduino.
Mhm.
Yeah, this also measure movements, tiltment, or whatever. But in the old days, this is I think from 1965. This is the way
Wow.
that you measure before. So I really bought for an old scientist that he still has, maybe in the university, not in Codarts, but in the physics or geologic university there in Rotterdam. Maybe you still can find this, and then you can ask them if you can use for recordings. I don't know if will say yes, but if
Yeah.
not, I don't know. I mean, for me, this was 100 euros. Not so cheap, but I think it's very interesting how it's a different way to record. Yeah,
So it is called accelerometer, right? It's the same as
accelerometer.
the circuit, but it's like a
E-
microphone, kind of.
yes, but this for sure is not a microphone. This is just giving you the data of movement, like if it's more into the left, into the right, if it has some acceleration, if it goes up, if it goes down. I mean, for sure, this circuit has more features than the analog one because it has a circuit integrated, and uh, it's a technology development for sure. And this one, but I also use this one for other purposes, but this could talk about that later.
Yeah. Is it possible to send the sounds in the chat that you recorded with this microphone? Like one example,
Uh,
maybe.
can I send it to you by email? Because I need
Yeah.
to.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Great. So, did you use any software
For what?
for the piece, like
um,
for the performance of the piece?
for the water piece.
Yeah.
Yes, I use two programs. One is C, and the other is Super Collider. But I think maybe I should explain a little bit more C.
EC as in I
It's
from Ireland and C from Cyprus.
yes.
Okay.
Um, I mean, well, you know Super Collider. I don't know
I
which
know.
program you
Yeah.
use. Okay. Do you use as a Super Collider or
Max, more Max.
more Max? Okay. Um, well, to have an interface between Super Collider and some external microcontroller, because for sure all of this we are talking about data sonification, but this cannot do it by itself. No, it's not like I have a sensor and then I connect and then magically it's happening. No, so you need an interface between the computer and the sensor. And normally what you have is different kind of microcontrollers. This is, for example, an 80. No, this is not an 80. BTE 2115A. This looks like Arduino Nano, but an Arduino Nano is just 16 bits, and this is 32 bits, so it's a little bit more powerful. You have different presentations of Arduino Nano. This is, for example, with wireless, so you can make wireless projects. This is like a tiny. This is for very nice for just the small projects. I can send you all the pictures. You have this one. This is the SP32. This is a very, very powerful module because it has also this is Wi-Fi integrated, but more powerful than the Arduino, and it has more memory as it's 32 bits, and the how do you say this? The processor is with two threads, so it's very powerful. And for sure, we have one of my favorite here. That this is the Raspberry Pi.
Oh yeah, this I know.
Yeah, this is amazing. The Raspberry Pi. So how to communicate these controllers with which program? I think there are million forms to do it. Like you can do with the Arduino IDE, you can do it with C. This is the way I do, or you can do it with Python too. There are other programs like C++ or ARM. This is the most difficult one I really faced in my life, the ARM, but it's actually the most powerful one. I saw it. But when you have really small projects, you can use Arduino IDE and no problem. But for sure, when you start to put sensors and sensors and sensors to your project, then you will need to reconsider which program is better to use, which kind of controller you can use. And also for sure, all these controllers, they have limitations. I mean, they are very nice just to get data and to send data, but they cannot really create data. So this is also completely different.
Yeah. So you talked about software. Now let's talk about the hardware setup. Can you go through the setup itself?
Yes, for the water.
Yes.
Okay. For that one, I had two specific sensors, and one I did by myself. Um, I think I have one here. Yeah. One is, as I say, the pH sensor. Sorry, I have here really a mess. I think it's this one. I mean, you can buy different kind of sensors. That is my guitar thing. So I put it here. On the market, and this is, for example, yeah, this is a pH sensor. So here inside you put the water sample, or you just take out and then you just drown the water
Yeah.
sample, and it gives you the value of if the water has more or less acid inside. And it comes also with a board that disconnects to Arduino. And the other sensor I used was the TDS. Not that one. I really need to look for it. But this gives you how many solids it has the water inside, and it's very curious because once the easiest way is you just buy this thing, just program a little bit, you just drown in the water, and then you start to get data in any case. And all the libraries are actually outside. This is, I think, the best thing of Arduino, that almost all the information is really on the internet. So in some point you will find a solution for this kind of things. But then if you really start to read the datasheet of the sensors, you say, okay, so I can expand these kind of things. So for example, what we have here is two, how do you say this, two metal wires.
Mm-hmm.
And what they are doing is just sending some electric pulses. And for sure, the water is conductive. So then what they are measuring is this conductivity of the water. If the water is really dirty, then it doesn't have so much conductivity. And as more pure it is, it has more conductivity. But also, if it's very cold, it's not having conductivity. So anyways, I start to read about it, and then I make my own conductivity sensor for the water, but really, really huge, because this works with 5 volts. And then I made one with 220 volts. So I mean, this is really to give power to a computer, or more than this. And I could find that, for example, how the water even was changing shapes when you start to give more or less temperature. And with this one, you cannot measure this kind of thing. So this was also very, very interesting for me, how the water changed the shape with this kind of sensor I did by myself, and with the help of the guys of Norway, for sure. Yeah.
So basically, that was it.
These three sensors, and for sure the other one that is this one I did. And
Yeah.
also the beautiful thing of these things is that you can draw on it, and then you just need to solder the cables properly, and you have a very nice sensor.
And the form that you draw on it, that becomes like sensitive, right?
Yeah, yeah. This is a leaf because it was related with the wind and with the plants and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. And maybe can you recommend a store to buy the pH meter and stuff in Netherlands or with international shipping?
I don't know if in Netherlands, but I know they can bring to Netherlands. It's AliExpress actually.
Yeah, I was expecting like
Yeah.
something really complicated. Yeah.
No, and it's
Okay.
super funny because I was talking with the guys there in Norway, and I asked them, they have really, uh, I mean, when they need really special equipment, for sure it's not from AliExpress, but these kind of things that also they have, they told me, we bought in AliExpress. And you said, me too. So
Fine.
AliExpress.
Yeah. So we are half through this and we are on schedule. Let's
Yeah.
move to a second piece called Voz Marquita.
Ah, Boss Marchita, yes. This is the
Voz
plant
Marquita,
actually.
yeah, sorry for my pronunciation. Would you
No
like to
worries.
introduce the concept of the piece?
Well, this piece was actually before this water station, and it was actually before my opera. It was also my first state of data sonification. So it was still 2019, I think. The pandemic was there, and I started to take care of my tomatoes. And in some point, I was then expanding this concept and sensors too. And then I'll say, okay, I will just put in different plants to see how it behaves, the plant. And then it was when I realized that every plant is completely different. At first I didn't understand why I got different values, because I also put some capacitive sensors to the plant. I put a soil moisture sensor. I mean, you put in the ground and then it measures if um, the ground is humid or not, and also measures how good quality or not is the ground. And I put some quality air, because they are also breeding. So for sure, it changed completely how the air is near of the plant. I put a light sensor to know if they need more or less light. But then when I transport this hardware to another plant, and then I start to see that that plant was dying, I was like, why? I mean, it should behave the same, no? And for sure, it is not, because the plants are completely different. There are plants that they need more water than the others. There are plants that they need more sun than the others, that they don't need sun. I mean, how they behave is completely different. So then I learned that I need for every plant to change completely my code. Maybe I could use the same sensors, but all the measurements, they really need to change drasticamente, very hard. Yeah,
Drastical, yeah.
drastic. Thank you very much. So for Voz Marchita, I use it's called Hortensia. I don't remember now the scientific name, but it's an Hortensia.
Hydrangea,
Uh,
maybe.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting because first I start with one Mexican plant that is called Nochebuena. This plant that gives red, they say red leaves. It's not red leaves. It's actually red. I know it's red leaves. It's not a flower. People think it's flower, but no, it's just red leaves. And this I transport to the Hortensia, and then I saw that they were behaving completely different. And then was fascinating for me how the Hortensia was kind of more friendly. Like it doesn't need, you don't need to take care much of the plant. You just give water and the plant responds pretty easy. And it's actually a plant that you can touch more than the Nochebuena. The Nochebuena, if you start to touch, is completely stressed and it starts to die. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And the other one, I was playing and also with my colleagues and everyone, we were touching the plant, and the plant actually likes that. So it was always behaving in a normal way. So I was like, okay, if I want to make a presentation with a plant that likes people, let's say, this is the one of my nearest options. So I choose that one. And the other very interesting thing is, this is why I said first that if you put Mozart or Beethoven to your plant, you think it's going to grow. And actually, I did it, and I used this capacitive sensor, and I saw that the values were very high. And I was thinking like, the plant is pretty excited. No, the plant was pretty stressed because of the sound. So as far as I stopped the music, well, not as far, but I stopped the music, and then little by little the values starts to be in the range. No, uh, so then I interpreted that as a stress part of the plant. So then I start to choose different music. Even I tried my music, and I need to say that the plant didn't like my music. But then I realized I just start to put some sine waves, very tiny sounds, and not so harmonically complicated. And the plant was always in this range, very stable, very stable. And then I said, yeah, the plant, I mean, I don't know if it likes it, but at least it's comfortable with this environment. So then I just record some instruments that they have very pure sounds, or as pure as possible. And I found this toy piano. I found some strings from the guitar, very simple things, and I just combine. And then I just try to create a soundscape that actually the plant is controlling. So when the plant starts to have more or less input, let's say, the plant can change the output in the sound. So I just create, let's say, the interface, and then I just leave the plant to do whatever she wants with that. And also, just to mention, for example, if the plant starts to need water, I put some kind of white noise, and this was kind of a sign for me that I should put more water. No? So then you have this kind of soundscape like blah, 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 blah. But if I start to hear like, it was like, hey, give me water. And then I just put water, and then all the values were again in some range.
How did you make the division between the white noise and the first organic soundscape that you made so the plant can know how to trigger?
This was made with a sensor called the soil moisture sensor. And you have, as far as I remember, some values between 0 and 1000. When the plant has enough humidity, also depends on the plant, is very important. The hortensia, as far as I remember, needs like 750 something humidity to be always happy. Because for sure, if you put a lot of water to some plants, the roots, they start to get rotten. And other plants, if you give or you don't give water, or I don't know, it's always completely different, no? So I measure that this is what the plant needs always to be completely stable. So when this value starts to goes down, I just send this data. Like if you go down, I put in Super Collider something like if data is equal to blah blah blah, starts to give me some white noise. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. You also said that when the plant was sleeping, the sound activity decreased. What data did you measure there?
This capacitive thing, it was that was combined. I think that's the difficult part, actually. when you have this data sonification, you can just do all the data that you get independently. Like, I have light sensor, then do this. If I have this capacitive, do that. If you have the blah, blah, blah. And then it's a system, but this system is actually not working together. It's just working independently, just they are in the same space. So in some point, what I need to do is to have, how do you say, like a data bank in which I knew that the plant was behaving good, was healthy, and some data bank in which I knew the plant was not so happy with something. So then this data needs to go through this data bank, and then it converts in new numbers. But these numbers are completely correlated. So then I realized, for example, when my first step was completely independently, but when I start to put everything together in order to measure, then I really understand more the plant. And as it's very funny, like the plant is also sleeping. When starts to be very dark, then by itself all the data starts to be less. But it's also it's not that it's dying or it's zero. No, from the range of the days like this, from the range of the night is like this. When the plant is kind of excited, is like this. When if it's stressed, is like this. And I just could get that data when I could put all together. If not, it was not enough to really know the state of the plant.
Yeah, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
So here you also used software like Super Collider, and that was it.
For that one, Super Collider, at first I start with Arduino IDE or the interface that house Arduino. But now actually I continue with this project, and in some point this is why I told you doesn't matter which software you are using. It depends more what you want to get, which results or which kind of artistic result you want, or if it's just scientific purpose anyway. Because I will show you here. Then you start to really get a lot of hardware. This is another Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
But this is a Neuer camera. This is not like a webcam. This is a special camera with some special filters. With this camera, actually, you can see how is the photosynthesis going on. Like depend of the color actually that is filtering this camera, and also you need to program the results and whatever just to know what you need. So nowadays I'm using for the plant Python, Raspberry, Arduino, C++, Super Collider. For sound, I always use Super Collider. I think it's unbelievable powerful for that. I know Maxim SP can do it too, but I like Super Collider because it's very near of C and C++. So for me, it's very natural way to program. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about these mainstream products that are available to do plant sonification, like Plants Play or Bamboo Device? Or for a starter, would you recommend that, or what do you say?
I will recommend, yes, I know one, I don't remember how it is, that you just connect to the plant and then actually sends you MIDI
Yeah, that one.
numbers. And it's pretty funny because if you go out actually to the web page, I don't know if we are talking about the same product, but I remember I saw one, I went to the web page and actually they are giving to you how to do it with an Arduino, because actually inside is an Arduino. It has the Atmega processor. And Arduino has a library called MIDI. So actually you can program everything, like you get some data and then you just put into MIDI. You need some program skills to do that, but it's really not difficult. It's I think if I can do it, everyone can do it, no? For beginners, it's okay. I mean, the only thing I don't like is sometimes how people they sell these. Like they just connect these kind of devices, and then they say, "Yeah, this is BioArt." Sorry, this is not BioArt in any case. This is just another device as a MIDI controller, MIDI keyboard. This is MIDI whatever. This is not BioArt. BioArt really means more than just one device, and sometimes this is what I don't like. No, so it's the same
Yeah.
with machine learning. They say, "Oh, this is machine learning," and then you say, "Man, this is not machine learning. You are just using an app that someone else did it, and you just put data." It's what you do with your app in your cell phone. You just put some data, and then you get some results. Um, this will be my only criticize of that. But
But
that you can use it, you can use it.
but what do they measure? Do you know? I think maybe the resistance of the plant or something like that.
Depend. Let me. I think I have one here actually. Yes. No, they what they measure is if you touch the plant or not. It's basically 0, 1. That's all. And this is, for example, this is a controller. I like more, but to interact with people. But you can use this with a plant.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, this chip here is the Atmega. This is an Arduino. For
No.
sure, this is a Russian enterprise, and they make these very nice conductivity things. So you can put
Mm-hmm.
some crocodiles here. I don't know how to call this Pinzette auf Deutsch. Then you just touch, and actually, what is doing this chip is sending MIDI messages. It's the same what they are doing with the plant. So they are really not measuring anything. It's just you touch the plant and then you just get some data. And this is why you have always like some set of kind of DJ. I am not criticizing. I am just saying how I saw like a DJ. And then they sometimes they just touch one part of the plant and they just get one MIDI value and then they just convert into sound.
Yeah, I think that's one device, but there is another one with this resistance measuring that I told you. So the plants they produce MIDI information even though nobody is touching the plant. Do you also know about that?
Yeah, this is um, with capacity sensitivity.
Yeah.
For example, um, the plants and I mean all live things, they are producing some kind of magnetic field.
Yeah.
You, me, the plant, even little insects, they really have kind of pulses of electricity, and you can measure that. And actually, Arduino has the Arduino IDE has a library called I forgot capacitive capacitive sensor. You can download this thing, and then you can do several things like pianos with pencils and paper, blah blah blah. But if you start to play with these things, this is a resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Then you start to hear to play a little bit more with the values. So you can put with the plant, and then you put some resistance, and then when you touch it, they have some values, but also depend on how the plant is behaving, and it is how do you say this? Is giving you different values of this magnetic field that the plant has. So they are measuring that. Yes, that's true, but it's doing not anymore, and you don't know which range is doing that. And because you are just getting MIDI, and MIDI it always goes from 0 to 127.
Yeah.
What does that mean, or how? What they decide to give which value to which number? No, so I don't know. This is why I always prefer to do the things by myself, because at least you know what you are doing, more or
Yeah.
less.
Yeah. Okay. So last questions. Do you know someone else connected to this topic that you can recommend?
Yes, Now I don't have all the names. Also, I can send it to you that by email. Some days, no, like 1 or 2 months ago, I saw one piece called Opera, actually, and it was actually a tree, and that tree was not only creating sounds, was also creating movements, depending on the state of the tree. So this is also very interesting that for sure with the microcontroller you can use for sure sound, but there are other artists that they use light, they use I actually for example with the plant I use light, and I really love this thing I use for the opera. Others they use movement, or I don't know, there are a million forms how to work with this. I will send you the names by email with the sounds too of the accelerometer.
Thank you. Yeah. And can you also recommend some books or resources about building this kind of stuff, these devices that you use? YouTube or anything?
This is a very tricky question, because on YouTube you can find I don't know, like tutorials. I can recommend you some tutorials for Arduino that for me it was very, very useful, but they don't say like, hey, let's build a super collider plant measurement with no. I mean, like concrete like this, no. But for example, you can find one tutorial, hey, let's going to build a capacitive sensor. Perfect. And then you find another video in which it says, hey, now we are going to use the VMP 680 to measure the air quality. Okay. And so it's your task actually to put all together and to face all the problems that means. Because when you start to have a lot of sensors, you don't understand why you don't get data to your Arduino. And this is because you need to know how many amperes is any sensor, how many volts you are getting from your Arduino. Some sensors work with 3.3 volts, others with 5.1 volts anyways. And if a little current change is not stable, all your data is false. So then you need to make your own, how do you say this? Voltage control. I mean, I don't want to sound pessimist. it's it's complex, not difficult, but it's complex. And I never find any specific tutorial that tells me how to do it. I just really need to put some parts there, and try to put all together. I fail million times till it was working.
Yeah, and for sure, if you can just send anything, just a part of the
Yes,
big
but I
thing.
was so
Yeah,
there are also some PDFs of Garduino is, I think, a very nice way to start.
I will check that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much. Well, this is the end of the interview. We made it through all the
Super.
questions.
Yay.
You also answered questions without me asking them.
Okay.
So that's also nice. Yeah, I wish you success. And yeah, I will stop recording now.
Yeah. Super. Thank you very much.